Hello, my friends. I'm very happy to be with you. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. And I'd like to begin this time because I'm going to talk about me, I'm going to talk about the hospital. So I want you to have the information in which you can follow us, like us, uh, subscribe, etc., in order to get more and more information. Because me, Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and BioCare Hospital are all about you, all about you being healthy, you not having to go to a hospital because of a deadly disease, you avoiding to die younger than your time, and not only that, but also be of a big help, a big resource to everyone around you, everybody that you love, everyone you know, everybody you think you can help. You can lend a helping hand and do your good deed of the day. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to convey, I'm trying to share a lot of the information that I have gathered through over 50 years as a physician. And I'm going to tell you how I got to that point and where I'm coming from. Because very frequently I have people that tell me, Doctor, you're doing this and that, and where did you learn it? How did you get involved with all of these things? And then I'm glad to share. I'm glad to share with you some of the things that have happened in my professional life and how we came, because we were a team of people, how we came to create BioCare Hospital and to create a philosophy of healthcare like no other one. I don't really know, sincerely, any program around us that I can tell. Somebody focuses on something, somebody focuses on a different thing, and it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's that they are complementary. So if you do this part, but you don't do this other part, you're missing big. You're missing the point. So it's not that I'm going to be critical about some of the theories, some of the programs that I know. It's just that they are complementary. And what we try to do at BioCare Hospital is do that. Complementary integrative medicine. Let's put together everything we have learned in one place, under one roof, in a simultaneous or successive way in order to create the well-being, the health, or the recovery and healing that we're looking for. That's what BioCare is all about. Uh, I I started my medical career back in the 60s, 1960s, so I go a long way. By the end of the 60s, I already had my medical degree. I was already a doctor. And I started doing, doctors have to go through a lot of training and these things, and medical residency and internship and travel. I had my internship in Toronto, Canada, and then as a physician in training, going through residencies, I had the opportunity to be in the largest medical center in Mexico, the most important medical center. I was very proud of that. And I had contacts that allowed me to go to different places that I was very proud of too. I was in some of the hospitals in New York City, in Washington University, in St. Louis, Missouri. I visited with them when some forms of medical radiation were still literally on the books more than in practical terms. I saw how some of the modern techniques that we do every day, that like tomography, were in their infancy. I remember listening to some of my teachers telling me that this was coming and it would be a big revolution. And as I became a doctor, I had an older brother. My older brother decided to become an oncologist. So, of course, he was working at the cancer ward at one of the largest hospitals. And I decided to visit him and see his work. And every time I went, I grew more and more disappointed. And I remember I'm very far from where I am today, very, very far. I'm talking to you that I was still in my 20s, just coming out of medical school. And I remember telling my brother, I don't know what I'm going to do if I get cancer, but one thing is for sure, I'm not coming this way. And you have books about it. There are many books that have become important books in the general literature that talk about cancer wards and how how much suffering, how much pain, how much everything is around it. So when I saw that, I decided there's got to be a different way. And that different way is what many people choose to do. Many people, when I talk to them and I say, okay, you're here, you have this, you have the other, tell me your story. And they tell me, doctor, I went to the doctor, they told me I had cancer. And when I saw the odds, when I saw the programs, when I saw everything, I thought there's got to be a different way. And that different way to me came in the form of my upbringing. When I was just a kid, uh, we were very healthy. I mean, thank goodness. And my parents were very healthy. Everybody around my family was very healthy. And they were, it was not an issue of being sick. Many people enter this road because they have a terrible disease and they're looking for alternatives. Not my case. I grew up in a very healthy family. I remember my uncles and cousins and grandmothers and everybody in the family being very healthy. So to me, health was not really an issue. But I lived in a family that was very health conscious. My grandmothers, both of them, I never saw my grandparents. They were dead by the time I was born. But my grandmothers were very conscientious about what you should be doing. Uh, I did remember distinctly going to my grandmother's house, my father's side, and the first thing she would do is line up all the grandchildren and feed them a spoonful of cod liver oil. Doing the right thing might be for the wrong reason because they didn't know what we know today, but they were doing a lot of good to us. My other grandmother, on the other hand, we would get there, line up the grandchildren, and give them brewer's yeast. Again, a winner. So we were very happy to have that upbringing. And then at home, we had to eat, and we had to eat with a clock. I mean, there was not if, buts, wait a minute, I'm doing no excuses. We had our meals at certain times, and my father would sit at the table, and by the time my father sat, who was like a clock, everybody had to be at the table, have their meals. No snacks in between, a piece of fruit, probably, an apple or a whole orange, that would be it. But you had, and my father always said, you have to have good meals so you don't eat all the time. He hated that. So you couldn't run around with anything that was food because he would immediately tell you not to do it. And certain things were completely off limits. No soda pop, no sweet water. In other words, we couldn't have any to drink. We couldn't have anything that was sweetened. It had to be plain water. Because he said, and he was right, that water in your system is to create your body. So you create it with water, not with sugar or anything like that. Okay? Not even a juice or a tea. It had to be plain water, no sugars. And I remember growing up and thinking, well, as soon as I get to be certain age, I'm going to go and buy a big, huge soda pop and drink it all. And you know what happened? That as years passed and then I got control of my whole life, every time I saw a soda pop, it was not appetizing for me to have with a meal. So you create a habit. You break the dependency that many children have today. You create a dependency on sugars. So we didn't have that. And I remember also my father telling my mother, you cannot do red meat more than twice a week because meat is not good for children. Where did he get that from? I don't have the faintest idea. He was an accountant. He wasn't even a doctor. But he told my mother things like that. And legumes were a must. We had to have beans, we had to have garbanzo beans, we had to have lentils, we had to have fava beans, you name it. We had to have legumes, we had to have broths, we have to have vegetables. And meats were really limited, all types of meats. So that is exactly what I think started to create the germ of someone that somehow being conscientious about what you eat can go a long way. And as I became a doctor, I looked around and I couldn't see anything in the horizon. Nobody talked about nutrition. In, in medical school, they told me that there were three main foods, namely protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and two other things that were just a helping hand, vitamins and minerals. That's it. And what's a carbohydrate? Well, they equate everything, which is another big mistake of our time. A carbohydrate is whole wheat, is pasta, is sugar, it's a soda pop. They put everything that has a CH3 molecule in it, it's a carbohydrate. And it is not the case. You have to distinguish food to food. And we have to talk about all that because that's what brought me to create a complementary, integrative medical program for people to be healthy, for people to live longer, and for people to heal. You cannot heal if you don't have a good nutrition in your body. Forget it. You can't. So stay with me because that's what we're going to be talking about today. My friends, I'm talking to you today and I'm very happy. Remember that we're coming to you through the courtesy of Truth Be Told Radio Network. And you can listen to this and every program if you search Truth Be Told Radio Network on Spotify. And you can listen to us. But you can also follow us, like us, subscribe to the social media of your choice. Because we're on Facebook, we're in Twitter, we're in Instagram, we're in YouTube, and we have programs and we have a lot of resources for you. Cooking, eating, testimonials of former patients, and a lot of information on how we structure our programs. We don't necessarily talk about how beautiful we are, how nice of a hospital it is, etc., etc. But we tell you what we do and why we do it. And today I'm trying to explain because people ask me sometimes, and how did you think of this? And I was telling you that I had a very fortunate upbringing because I grew up in a family that was very health conscious and was very conscious about what you ate, what you brought to the table. In those days, you would go to the market fairly often because preserved foods were rare. I remember I was growing up in Mexico City in the 1950s. So cans and packs and that type of thing were not common. You'd have to go and buy groceries and grains and go to the market and buy tomatoes from a big bulk thing or whatever you wanted to buy and put it in a big basket and bring it home. And of course, if you were a son in those days, you would help your mother carry the basket back home, and she would cook from scratch, basically, because I don't remember having a jar or a box or anything like that. And I wonder, have we had a chance to use it? I wonder if we could have used it because my father was very strict in how you feed the children. In those days, I remember that mayonnaise was available. My father hated it. You know why? Because it came in a glass container. God knows how long it's been on this shelf. That cannot be healthy, my father used to say. So up to this day, I don't like mayo just because I wasn't used to it. I didn't grow with it. And I started getting older and tried it. It just didn't please my palate. I didn't like it. I like butter. I like real cream. I like dairy products, but I don't like mayo. So, because, and it is important not because I tell you, it's important because that tells you something. And here I'm going to give you a very important phrase from a very good friend. And it's good for a lot of things. She always tells me, your children never do what you tell them to do. Your children do what you do. So don't tell a child, don't eat a soda pop when you're having a big glass. Don't dare your children, don't eat added sugar when you're having a big candy bar. Don't tell your children not to have this when you have it in your pantry. If you're going to teach your children how to eat, you have to make the changes. They will follow. They will like what you like. If you take a plate of broccoli and you say, yummy, but you do it since the early age, they're going to love it because you love it. But if you say, I hate broccoli, now you eat it because it's good for you, it's not going to work. Nothing for that respect. They do what you do, not what you tell them to do. So let's go back a little bit about what I was telling you. So when I was, after the ending of my medical career, and I visited my older brother who was a cancer specialist in one of the big cancer centers in Mexico City, I saw things I didn't like. In those days, cancer therapies were very, very aggressive. They were, I don't know, today's treatments are 10 times easier to do and to bear with than what was in those days. Chemotherapy was terribly aggressive. They put everything they thought of. And surgeries were catastrophic. I mean, you had breast cancer, they removed the breast and the muscle behind it and leave just the ribs and take all the fat, all the lymph nodes from your axilla, and then lymph drainage was completely impaired, and you could see ladies with an arm that looked 4 times the size because of poor lymphatic drainage, because they have taken so much out that there was flow toward the arm, but there was no way for anything to come back into the central system. So it was really a lot of suffering. And then I saw that because of the therapies, because of the whole suffering involved, people didn't eat. People would eat barely something. Take a piece of bread, a piece of broth, and it was a constant fight between the patient and the family. And I remember, and probably some of you have gone through this, if you have ever taken care of a cancer patient, you tell the person to eat. They don't want to. Simple. And I've seen, and you probably have either lived through it or seen it, that you go to the patient and you say, just a little spoonful of this, just a little sip of this thing, just a little bit of this protein drink, just this, just the other, and the person tells you, no, I'm nauseated, take it away. Just by looking at this food, I don't feel good. Makes me nauseous. So not only you are not hungry, you refuse food. It's not pleasant. The smell is not pleasant. I've seen countless numbers of cancer patients that they bring a tray or they bring something and they say, okay, take it away. I'm going to vomit. I cannot take this smell. Smells awful. And that is part of the disease, part of the medication. One of the side effects of chemotherapy might be exactly that, or radiation, because both radiation and chemotherapy can bring a lot of inflammation. And also part of poor nutrition. The person gets so depleted that cannot react in a normal way to food. If you stop eating, there's going to be a time where you don't care for food. Sounds contradictory. You do not eat, and instead of getting hungry, you start just not taking care for food. That's what we see, for example, in anorexia nervosa. These young girls stop eating because they want to be thinner, but they reach a point where they don't want to eat anymore and they don't get hungry. And the nutritional condition of the body is so poor that when they eat, they vomit. So you create a vicious cycle where you don't eat, and not eating creates a problem that makes the problem bigger and bigger and bigger. And many of these girls die. Just open the statistics. How many people die of anorexia nervosa in the United States? And there are many. Same happens with cancer patients. They stop eating. First of all, because it's not a very exciting news when somebody tells you have a cancer. Second, because probably you went through surgery, then you went through chemotherapy, then you had radiation, then you're thinking every day, is this my last day? You're not going to feel like having a steak. You don't feel like going to a restaurant. So you stop eating. And between the disease, the medication, and the lack of food, you grow more detached from food every day. And keep this in mind, because when we talk about BioCare, I have fantastic news for you. Because so far sounds like a little bit sad news. No, I have a lot of lights at the end of the tunnel. I continue working as a doctor, and I was true to my idea. I didn't want to become an oncologist, a cancer specialist. I went into nuclear medicine. What is nuclear medicine? Nuclear medicine is a technical specialty like X-rays, where you do diagnosis and treatment with the use of radioactive material. And I was very proud of that because I have always had a very inquiry mind. I always wanted to see what's behind that door. And when I started doing this, that was the big door for computers to come into medicine, for a lot of technical things that we now consider common practice. And I was very fortunate because not only had a best training you can have, but I was invited to go to New York City and was there some time, and I could work with people that are fantastic. I'm going to make it short for you. I work, for example, and I met Dr. Rosalind Yallow, who was a Nobel Prize winner. And I couldn't believe it. I know a Nobel Prize winner, or I know the winner of this big thing, you see. And people from Baltimore, from National Institutes of Health, and I was just very proud. But always the same problem. You get to a certain point and you don't seem to go beyond. So if I know all this, if I have a computer, if I know this person, if I have all this knowledge, why cannot, what prevents me from helping you? Because after all, I became a doctor because I want to help you. And we'll talk about that. We're going to come back. I don't want you to go anywhere. I just want you to follow me. Follow me in social media, ask questions. I'll be back with you. My friends, I hope I'm not boring you with a lot of personal information about my life as a doctor and how I chose to do what I do and how I went from the orthodox medical practice, which is, in my case, nuclear medicine, to look for alternative complementary methods. I told you about my upbringing. I told you how I decided to become a nuclear physician and learn. At that point, I was naive enough to think that science and technology would provide the knowledge that I needed to help my patients. You know, I'm a teacher at the School of Medicine of the uh, Faculty of Medicine of the University in Baja. And every time I talk to my students, I always tell them, I hope you're here for the right reason. And the right reason is I am a doctor, and you probably have heard this phrase from many people, thank God, that tells you, I'm going to become a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I became a doctor because I wanted to help people. That's the right reason. There's no other reason. There should not be any other reason. If you're financially successful, fine. If you're scientifically successful, fine. If you are whatever successful, fine. But did you help those people that came to you for help and advice? If you did, you're a good doctor. If you did not succeed with that part, well, I have to call you something else. But you're not a doctor. So I was in the quest of this thing. And as I was telling you, I was naive enough to believe that nuclear medicine and computers and radioactive materials and so forth will provide me with answers. So I started working, and I finished my medical training, my formal training. I was already a nuclear physician. I was already a specialist. And one day I get a call from an alternative clinic in Tijuana. And this came from some good old friends. And they tell me, Rodrigo, we want you to come here. We want you to work with us. We have a cancer clinic, and we want you to run the nuclear medicine department. And I thought at the time, I don't want to move. I'm happy with what I'm doing. Uh, I've never been in Tijuana, so I don't know what's in there, etc., etc. So I declined the offer. Sometime after, they called me again, and they called me again, and finally, and I'm not making this up, finally, 7 months after the first offer, there's a friend of mine, a mutual friend actually, who brings me an envelope and he says, here's an airplane ticket so you can go and come back. Here's your hotel reservation for you to stay. And of course, they're going to take care of everything. You're going to be met at the airport. You're going to be driven around. You're going to be shown the town. You can go across the border and go to San Diego, which was always very attractive. And all they want you to do is visit the clinic and see how nice it is. So I came down, I saw the clinic, I saw what they were doing, and it really caught some of my attention. And finally, I decided to accept part time. I said, well, because nuclear medicine is very programmable, everything is done by appointment, I decided I'm going to give all the appointments for this clinic Monday through Wednesday, and then I fly back and continue for the rest of the week in the office I had before. And I thought it is very easy because I'm going to do this over a period of, let's say, 3 to 6 months while they can get somebody to stay full time. And when I was doing that, uh, the government requested more solid information about the results and the utility of alternative medicine in cancer therapy. So I went through all my records that I had from all the patients in the clinic, and uh, nuclear medicine is fairly simple. You're not a doctor, but you probably have done it. If you're a patient, if you're a caregiver, if you're a spouse, if you're a friend of somebody with cancer, you know they send you to do an MRI, they send you to do an X-ray, they send you to do a scan, whatever, and the results are simple. Are you better? Are you worse? Or everything continues to be steady? That's the bottom line. Every time you go to have a scan, you say, oh my God, I'm so happy because everything stays quiet. Or big news, the tumor is shrinking. Of course, there's a chance that things are not going the way you want. So I took all the records and started reviewing them, and I found 17 excellent cases that I thought nobody would challenge. I said, if I show this, how people are improving, this is going to be important. And of course, I started reviewing what treatments they were taking, what programs they were under. And the first surprise I got is that 16 of 17 cases came from the same physician. It took me half a second to get to that physician's office. I went to the office, and it was a lady doctor. She must have been in her 40s. I knock on the door. I find a very pleasant lady, big smile. I mean, it is a person, as a fellow doctor told me once, he told me, there is no way you can talk to her and not say, this is a beautiful lady. That was the word to describe her. She greets me with a big smile, asks me to sit, and I tell her my finding. Most people that are doing well, I mean, the vast majority come from this office. So you must know something we don't know. And she answers with one word, just smiles and says, nutrition. I said, come on, don't tell me that if I eat broccoli instead of a hamburger, I'm going to get cured. And she said, no, but that's the beginning. Well, until the day she died, there was almost no day or no week where we didn't have a conversation. She was my big teacher. Her father was a physician too, and he used to work with a lot of alternative methods, so he knew a lot. So we started working and creating a different approach. Then they appointed me as the medical subdirector of the clinic so I could work even further in that direction. So because of some political changes in the clinic and so forth, I left it. I went somewhere else, and I went somewhere else. And everywhere I went, I found the same problem. Always the same type of problem. Hospitals are not a good place to be sick. Hospitals are not the ideal environment to heal. Hospitals are a problem in themselves. Why? Because detoxification, cleansing, and good nutrition does not exist. And you wouldn't dare to treat a wilted plant just with fertilizer or with a chemical. If it's not well watered, it's not going to succeed. If it doesn't get the sun or the shade it needs, it's not going to succeed. If it has some sort of a mold or fungi growing, it's not going to succeed. You have to be thorough. You have to say this plant needs this to be fed or to be supported, but it needs a different type of watering, needs a different type of sunlight, needs a different type of cleansing and avoiding any plague that the plant might have. So, along with a group that had the same type of ideas, we decided there's only one answer. We create our own center where we have control of all of these things. And that's the origin of BioCare Hospital and Wellness Center. Because we needed a place where we had full control of food to begin with. It's not too much to ask. It's not too much to ask. The same way I'm telling you today is not too much to ask you to watch what you eat, to watch what you bring to your table, to watch what you bring to your children. It's not too much to ask. Just raising your shoulders and say, well, that's what it is. You see? So we have to start learning to biocare our bodies in a much better way. And when we started doing all of this, we started thinking, this is what we have to do, and this is where the word biocare started. Because we started saying we have to start taking care of all the elements that a healthy living organism needs. All the important elements that a person that has been wounded or debilitated needs. These are all the situations that any person in despair needs. What is that? How you put it all together in one word. That is BioCare. Bio, in Greek, you have heard the word biology. Biometrics is very much in fashion today. Bio whatever is just bio. The root bio means life. And care is a very proactive verb. It's not a passive verb at all. Care means that I move on, that I do something, that I change something, that I provide something. That's what care is. That's why we tell people, you don't care for me, because you do nothing. You might say, I love you, but you don't care for me. You see? So care means proactiveness. And BioCare is a proactive way to protect, to improve, to supply, to help the life of somebody that's alive. We're going to talk about BioCare Hospital and Wellness Center in the next segment, so stay with me. My dear friends, allow me to read this because I don't want to be looking back and forth. I want you to join our social networks because that creates a community. And we have to become a community because we can help each other. I like, for example, to go to farmers market because I find people that think alike, people that are supportive of what we do, and we support what they do. And we encourage you to go to the farmers market locally and see what they have to tell you. It's very important. You're talking about your life, your health, and the life and health of everyone around you. So it's important. It's important for this community that you like us on Facebook, that you follow us on BioCare Hospital in Twitter. You can follow us in Instagram, biocare.hospital. You can subscribe to YouTube. We have videos. You can watch all these conversations I'm having with you. You can watch them on YouTube and see them again and share them. To me, it's very important that you share them because the bigger our community, the better off we all are going to be. And also to remember that this program is broadcast every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and rebroadcast every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can search on Spotify Truth Be Told Radio Network, and there you have it. You're going to have 150 hours of programming. There's an enormous amount of information that you can tap into, and that is going to help you to understand and learn and see whether this is good for you. I'm going to be like your grandmother. I can tell you right now, it's going to be good for you. But you don't have to take it as it is. If you follow us and stay with us and know about us, you can also ask questions. We're open to questions. I love to talk to people. I love when people ask questions because that tells me that, yes, the message is getting there. And if you have any doubt, I don't want you to have it. The best way to get an answer is to ask a question. So I'm here for you. And also, you can call our toll-free number and ask about anything with any of our doctors or give us medical information about a problem you might have. That's going to cost you nothing. We're going to give you an honest-to-God answer to what we think you should be doing. So, said that, let me continue with what we're talking about. Let me continue about BioCare. And this is a very good opportunity to talk about a BioCare because we have a milestone. This month of June 2022, we completed 37 years in our hospital building. Our first patient came here in June 1985. And by the way, that was a kind of a strange thing because our first patient came from Taiwan. We're an international hospital. We have had people from Taiwan and Japan and Korea and Hong Kong and Thailand and I forget what other countries in that area, but also from Switzerland, from Germany, from the Netherlands, okay, from England, and of course from the United States, Canada, and many countries in South America. So we're an international hospital. And we all speak English because that's the nowadays is kind of the mother language for everybody. We all, no matter where we're born, if we want to communicate with others, we use the English language. So everybody speaks English. The person that cleans the room to the person that serves the food to, of course, the doctors and the nurses and everybody. But that started 37 years ago with the arrival of this patient from Taiwan. And he was a cancer patient that contacted us and was in a big emergency and big urgency to come down. And we were literally uh, having the patient coming one way and the last worker coming out the other way. I think we still smell like fresh paint. But that was the beginning of this operation as we have it. And for 37 years, we have been helping people and helping problems in this complementary way, in this integrative way. Because somebody tells me, don't tell me that if you do a coffee enema, you're going to get rid of cancer. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you do this therapy and you do coffee enema, you're going to get rid of a lot of the side effects that are so devastating. A good friend of mine is not only the owner of one of the largest hospitals in Tijuana, but is also the mother of one of the most prestigious doctors in Tijuana. She has breast cancer, and I meet her once, and I said, "How you're doing?" She says, "Well, everybody tells me I'm doing better, but I'm nauseated, constantly nauseated. I don't want to eat. I feel like this. I feel like that." So I say, "Come on, why don't you come and do something with me?" She came down, and what she needed was cleansing. We started doing coffee enemas. We started doing intravenous nutrition, and she started improving and improving. And one day I see her daughter, once again, a very important doctor, a very respected physician, entering the hospital, coming directly to me. And I thought, let's see what she has to say. And the first word she said is, "Thank you, Rodrigo. You changed my mother's life." We were at home, and one day she says, "It's been long since you took me to have dinner in that place." I couldn't believe it. She was hungry. Not only hungry, but she felt like eating things she couldn't eat anymore or would not want anymore. And she wanted to go out. She wanted to go to the restaurant. I came to say thank you. I told her, "What are you doing?" She told me she was coming your way, and she told me what she was doing. So integrative complementary medicine is doing everything you have to do to make you better, to help you heal. Is that plant, that wilted plant, where you can do whatever, but you still have to look for sunlight and you still have to water the plant correctly. If you don't feed people, that's going to be a problem. Now, take advantage, because BioCare Hospital is a full-fledged hospital. We're not a clinic. We're not a hospital, a doctor's office where you're going to come in here for your appointment and then you go home and wonder what to do. No, this is a full hospital. You're going to come in, you're going to have your room, you're going to be in your hospital bed, you're going to have nurses, you're going to have your cleansing therapies, you're going to have your hyperbaric oxygen, but you can also have a central catheter in your vein to feed you, to put all the food you need in your body today as we speak. All the supplements, all the targeted nutrition that you need, all the anti-inflammatory strategies that you need, we can do it because we're a hospital. You're going to be surrounded by caring doctors and caring nursing staff, which, by the way, I have to tell you, I get so many good comments about staff every day. I'm very proud of them. But you need a full hospital to do what you have to do. And that's what we are. We are BioCare Hospital and Wellness Center. If you have a problem, believe me, you can plan your therapy any way you want. But if you don't support your body, if you don't do anything about it, you're going to have 2, 3 times the side effects. You're going to be malnourished. Your general condition is going to come down and down and down. And we have seen it. You have seen it. I don't have to tell you because unfortunately cancer is becoming very frequent. And we all have dealt with people with cancer. So you have to say, I want to help you, but I want to help you thoroughly. I want to help you complementary. I want to help you integratively. So you're going to be in BioCare 24/7 doing what you have to do and get the support. And remember the patient I told you that you brought the food and said, no, take it away, it makes me nauseous. I'll tell people, if you don't want to eat, don't eat. And sometimes the family kind of faints. So what you have to do is you have to start feeding these people, like intravenously. And I tell people, don't worry, I'm not going to push any food on you. I know you don't feel like eating. I understand you. So relax. But I'm going to put everything you need in this. And you're going to see how you feel. And they're very happy because of that, because they have been pushing and pushing and pushing. So they don't have that almost harassment anymore. But at the same time, they feel the energy going up. They feel the well-being going up. And because they're also getting anti-inflammatory therapies and they're getting hyperoxygenation in their system. And because they're being cleansed and improved in their intestinal flora and every part of the body, they start feeling better and better. And sure enough, 3 days, 4 days after arrival, one day they say, and what's for lunch today? You see? You say, yes, I know what I'm doing. And I have treated people where I say, I think I know what I'm doing. And in 2, 3 days, you're going to tell me, yes, doctor, let's keep on. Or if you want to go home, you can go home. But I know you're going to say, yes, doctor, I think everything is working. So remember that healthcare, and by healthcare, I mean everything, from the day you're born to the day you die, keeping your health, also recovery from anything. It could be a car accident, it could be any sort of damage, it could be COVID-19, it could be any disease that comes your way. The stronger your body, the stronger your immunity, the better equipped your body is, the better prepared you are to face it. Resilience, recovery, and healing will be a lot easier. So think BioCare. Learn BioCare. Call us. Follow us. Review our information. And also remember the biggest part. You don't have to get sick. We have a lot of information about how to bypass, to prevent all these problems. But if unfortunately you're dealing with a problem, I think, honestly, I think this would be the best answer. Next week, we're going to keep our conversation, and I hope you're going to be with me. I'm very happy that we had the opportunity to talk today. Follow me, stay with me, and I'll see you next week.